now we're going to go ahead and review what a box and whisker plot is and what mean, median, mode, Q1, Q3, IQR, interquartile range, and outliers are. Um, so we're just going to do an example and see how this works. The formulas the main formulas we need to know are how to identify the interquartile range, which is listed right here, and then how to identify an actual outlier. And I'll explain the formula here in just a little bit. So we're given um, several geometry test scores, and we want to create a box and whisker plot for those. The easiest way to do this would be to actually use our graphing calculators. We can do this by hand, and that's fine as well, but I'm going to show you the calculator method. What we would do is we'd first of all put all these geometry scores that we see here in a list. So on our calculator, we go to Stat, Edit, and we go into List 1. And I'm going to clear out what was originally there. So we should have a list in our calculator under List 1. And then once we get to that point, then we start typing in the numbers starting with 55. So we're just going to type those numbers in. It doesn't need, you might as well just put them in the order that they're listed. The calculator is going to figure that out on its own. So just be careful. After you type these in, it's very important to double check that we have the correct number of data values. So we have 10. If I count here, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that matches up very nicely. So we're good there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what's called a 5-number summary. I'm going to exit out on my calculator. I'm going to hit the Stat key. So I'm going to write this down for you too here. So we're going to go Stat. Okay, so I'm going to click the Stat button, which is right here. And then I'm going to go over to the Calculate menu. So Stat, Calc. And right up on the top, there's a number 1 that says 1 variable stats. We're going to choose that option first of all and just hit enter. So I choose that option, hit enter again, and this gives me a lot of information about the numbers that we have listed. So I'm going to write some of this information down. So the first thing I know, X bar is the mean, and that's 65.1. So they just give that to us. And the mean, remember, is found by taking and adding all of those up and dividing it by the number of items there are. So this is like our average. The other important thing that we would probably want on this list would be, especially to create our box and whisker, would be the minimum. So the minimum value that we see here would be 18. We have our Q1, which is 55. We have a median, which is our middle number, and that is 72. And then we have Q3, which is 73, and a max value of 99. Okay. Now, what we can do then next is we can actually use these numbers to figure out a bunch of different things. First of all, let's start out with our a couple of numbers we can just list right away. With the data set that we have, we know that our mean was just the average, and that we found out to be 65.1. So that's done. We also found the median, which is our middle number, and that was equal to 72. And we could get that by rearranging these from smallest to largest and looking at the middle. If there's two middle numbers, remember you got to add those two together and divide by 2. Mode. Mode you have to do by hand for sure. That's how when it's the most. So you count, you look for numbers that are the most, and it looks like I see a 72 3 times. So that's our mode. The Q1 is going to be 55, and that's where our middle, that's the median between the minimum and the median. And then we have the Q3, which is listed at 73. The range, we can actually figure that out by doing our max minus the min. So that's going to be 99 minus 18. So if I subtract that, I would get 81. 81 is going to be our range. And now we're going to draw our box and whisker plot and then determine if there's any outliers. Okay, so when I do the box and whisker plot for this piece of information, I would I'd first of all want to draw like a scale below it here. So if I do this, I can see that my scores go from 18 to 99. So there's quite a variety here. We want to probably go by tens then, I guess. So we'll make like a marking here, 10, 20. So start here at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. We start out with our minimum value, which is 18. That would be right about here, because 20 would be close to there. We want to go to our Q1, which is about 55. So 30, 40, 55. It's located right there. That's where the start of our box is going to be. Then we go to our medium, which is 72. So this is my middle of my box. And then my Q3 is at 73, which is really close to the median. So it's just a little bit over. And then the maximum is 99, which is over here. Okay, so we have kind of sketched a box and whisker plot, and that's what that would look like. So if you saw the box and whisker plot, you would know, based upon the different locations, what is your, your median is this middle part, and then you have your Q3, your max, your Q1, and then your minimum value. So those are the different locations on there. And remember, basically what this is telling us is that in this first section, 25% or a fourth of the numbers are between the minimum and the Q1. And then 25% are between the Q1 and the median, and then 25% between the median and Q3, and then 25% from Q3 to the max. So there's like a fourth, a fourth, a fourth, and a fourth. And they're just categorizing them by the sections of the numbers that we see. So then we want to determine if there's any outliers. So we got to use this formula. There's a formula up above for the outlier that's listed right here, and it has to do with the interquartile range, or the IQR. So we first of all should figure out what IQR is equal to in this problem. And that's our Q3 minus Q1. The Q3 was 73. And our Q1 was 55. So I subtract those two. And that's going to be equal to 18. So the interquartile range is 18. Now, according to the formula up here, I have to multiply that by 1.5. So I have to take 1.5 times 18. So it'd be like 18 plus 9, which is 27. Now, an outlier has to be bigger than Q3 plus 1.5 times the interquartile range. So now if I try to apply the formula on the bigger end, the outlier would have to be greater than my Q3, which was 73 plus 27. So it has to be greater than 100. Well, we don't have any scores greater than 100, so there would be no outliers on the larger, on the larger number end for the large numbers. So then we look on the lower side, and for calculating the outlier on the lower side, we basically would have to say that an outlier would have to be less than the Q1, which is 55, minus the 1.5 times interquartile range, which was the 27 that we got over here. So if I calculate that, that would get me a value of 28. So on the smaller end, any number that is less than 28 is considered an outlier. So now I go back and I look at my scores, and I do see a score of 18. So 18 is actually considered an outlier. And in fact, it's the only outlier that we have in the data set. So the outlier would be 18, and it's the only one that we have on